I wasn't all that interested in working in a salon, although it's a good job. It's also something that's very restrictive. You're in a cage basically, and I wanted something a little bit freer. There's something funny about this show is that when you're seeing it, you're not really sure what you're seeing, especially if you just walk into it. Osadia is a Spanish word that means to be imprudent or daring. So it is about introducing theatre and theatre makeup and theatre hairdressing skills to do street hair at a festival, and that person who's been done is going to be one of the characters animating that festival. It has to be the funniest thing in the world. People getting home from a show with their hair in. I think that's where the theatre of the show really continues and is probably at its funniest. A good friend of mine who was working at a theatre festival, she said, "Why don't you do something with your hairdressing?" I bought an old hairdressing chair, a nice old mirror. It was actually an entrance mirror. Did people's hair, cut it, gave them a good haircut, and then also gave them a little bit of a flamboyant style. My grandparents, my aunts and aunts, they have all been telling me this biblical story, so it's really been embedded in my subconscious. I've always been surrounded by images of saints and angels and virgins. They are performers themselves. When you go to Seville and you see those processions, which is nothing more than a street performance, and you see these virgins dressed up to the nines and people reacting to them, that is something that has inspired me in my work. I consider myself a very spiritual person. I think you can't be creative unless you have a spiritual bone in your body. They don't restrict my way of thinking. I don't feel that they are something that control me. They're something that inspire me. The second year, I thought, I'm doing it again this year, but I'm doing it because I want to do it for my own personal interest. So I'm going to be really daring and I'm going to send out the message, either style it or crop it. You'd think people wouldn't be prepared to do that. All the contrary. Everybody wanted to have their hair cropped off. They thought it was the most fantastic experience to publicly be cropped in a hairdressing chair in an art installation. And we don't cut people's hair that much anymore. That scare element or thrill element isn't really what I want to do now. I'm really now more about using images and sending out messages through images. One of my favorite topics is the Barbie doll. Probably because my mother wouldn't let me play with Barbie dolls when I was a little boy. I really wanted a Barbie doll. Bald men often go away painted like swimming pools with Barbies coming out of their heads. This is when she's out of costume. I call all of this work collage work. And then all of these have been meticulously made here in the workshop to be given away to somebody. When we do someone's hair, we may do a very Baroque Marie Antoinette style hairstyle, which we usually do putting a polystyrene ball in the hair and then combing the hair around it. As a finishing touch, we would put this on as if it were a little crown. She's our trial mannequin. She's had one too many hairstyles. One of my favorite things when I'm out working in different countries is looking for fabrics that bring them back as souvenirs. I'm working with a new character this year, which the face is going to be very white, a red cross on the mouth. These pieces have been created a little bit to go with this idea. I bought a box of these motorbikes and I just couldn't get rid of them. I mean, there's only so much inspiration you can get from the same toy. So I did everything I could with them, and then I have designed a costume around the bicycle, and this idea is that don't use fossil fuels. Hence, this one is Eve. We dress up as Adam and Eve, and I have an Adam and Eve soundtrack. My assistants are key elements in the presenting process, but when it comes to costumes, I generally try and do this myself. I'm a hairdresser by trade and a makeup artist by trade, and this is what I was trained to do. It seems idle that someone would spend their day putting wire on little feathers and call it a job. But when these feathers are on someone's hair and a character's created, suddenly you can do a lot of things dressed like this that you probably wouldn't have done if you weren't. And then you're liberated because you're not yourself anymore. You're somebody else. You're the person that you're the character you've been turned into. And suddenly everybody's focus is on you, and that's an experience that for a lot of people is very new. This is what I want to keep doing. I think as long as this makes me happy and it makes other people happy, and I keep being creative with this project, I don't see myself retiring for the next at least 10 years, I would say. It's nice to know that you have had an impact on people's day in a positive, creative and imaginative way.